Hey everyone, today we're going to talk a little bit about how to create some very simple doodles for stuff that you can put in your travel packing list. So doodling is supposed to just be like, it doesn't have to be very realistic looking items as long as you get the idea of what it is. That's really all that matters. So if you break down everything into shapes, it makes it a lot easier to draw because all we want is the simple shapes in order for our brains to know exactly what we're drawing. So for example, with a t-shirt, I started with just like a rectangular shape that I left the top open, and then two slightly rectangular shapes on both sides, and then a little curve in the middle for the neckline. So if you break it down like that, it's a little bit easier to see how to draw these doodles. Same with the pants. You can do straight rectangles for like sweatpants. You can also do, if you want to do like a, I guess they're called boot cut jeans, then you can make like parallelograms that go downwards, short, so you just make the legs shorter. And then you can add little details, like I added pockets, a button, a zipper, but again, they're all just simple shapes like a circle or a straight line. I'm not going into details, that's not necessary, because you get the idea of what it is just by looking at it. Similarly for shirts, I also made a tank top, which is very simple. It's like another rectangle with the top open, and then instead of doing sleeves, you just leave it straight, and then you draw an arc, upside down arc, I guess. Well, it's still an arc for the neckline. Similarly with the dress, I did make it a little bit more flowy, so I put some instead of a straight line at the very bottom, it's going to be more like waves. That gives it a little bit more of a feeling of movement. So little things that you can change here and there to give it to spice it up a little bit, basically. For glasses, it's very easy. If you have circular lenses or circular frames, then it's just two circles with a little rectangle connecting the two circles. If you want to make it a little bit more realistic and you want to add in, I guess, the legs of your glasses, then you just draw two parallel lines that curve at the end downwards, and there you have glasses. There's so many different kinds of shapes of glasses that are out there, so sunglasses, eyeglasses, it's really up to you. Squares are very simple shapes as well. Toothbrush, it's, again, if you break it down, it's really just like one small rectangle and one really long rectangle that's very narrow. I just made it a little bit more, have an angle on the left hand side in order to give it that brush feel. And then just horizontal lines to give it even more of a brush illusion. Same with the horizontal version of the toothbrush with toothpaste on top, to do a little bit of a wave for the toothpaste. And then for the toothpaste tubes, you can do it open, you can do it closed. With the open, you can just have the toothpaste coming out. But you can make it curl, which makes it even feel more tube-like, and that's just making it like a J shape and then connecting it to the left-hand side. So yeah, it's just, if you can look at an item and try to break it down into its components, shapes, then that makes drawing it a lot easier. And again, it's not precise. Like if you look at my lines, they're not straight, they're kind of wiggly. But when you start inking it, you can make adjustments. But also, it doesn't really matter. If it's not straight, it's not straight. Like it just gives it a little bit more of a natural doodle feel instead of being perfect image or perfect vector image. So yeah, it's okay if it's not perfect. And then when you're inking, you can make little tweaks here and there, make it a little bit more detailed if you want. Like for example, with the belt buckles, I made it 2 lines instead of just a single line to give it more of a width. And then lines, you don't have to always be like solid. You can have dotted lines especially for areas that, in real life, when you look at the item, it might not have a solid line and it's just like a hint of a shadow. That you can do dotted lines, and that will make it less obvious as a line, but you can still see it there. And then for glasses, I forgot to mention anything that has glass or reflection, like a mirror or a window. If you do diagonal lines on it, then it makes it look even more like a glass. So that's what I'm doing with all these lenses, just adding diagonal lines. And then for like the nose bridge area of the glasses, you can do curved lines like I've been doing, or you can just do straight lines as well. Curved lines makes it feel more like a bridge, but straight lines like I did in the rectangular sunglasses as a sketch is also fine. All right, and then when you're inking, it doesn't have to be exactly as you sketched it. You can do little tweaks like I mentioned before, but also if you feel like something doesn't look right, or you want to add a little bit more detail, that's also, a sketch is just for reference. Like I added that extra line in the toothpaste because I feel like, like I think it's Aquafresh or maybe it's Colgate. I can't remember which. I'm sure all the toothpastes have it, but some of them have dual colors. And so you can add a little detail like that in there as well. Also, for example, the toothpaste cap, I added vertical lines down so to give it more details. So it's really up to you. If you plan on coloring in your doodles, then you don't really have to add too much detail because you can do that with the colors. But because I'm just going to keep it as an outline, I want to add a little bit more detail to make it less blank. Like any kind of texture that you can add into your drawings will make it a little bit more, I guess just makes it feel less like it's one big blank white space, especially if you're not coloring it in. And then so for example with the t-shirt, I added more lines. I added like little crease lines or shadow lines. It doesn't have to be exact, it doesn't have to be precise, but it's just something extra. And then if you want, you can also do shadows or shading like I'm doing with the shorts. If you're using a black pen and you get a gray pen or gray marker, you can do that. Or for example, I used a green acrylograph, but now I'm using a similar green calligraph to give a little bit more dimension. But again, this is just a little bit extra. I always like adding shadows to my doodles because it makes it not realistic, but it just makes it feel less empty. And it makes it feel like it's popping off the page a little bit more. And then for glasses, if you want to give it a little bit more dimension, just put the shadows on the lenses where the frame would cast a shadow on the lens. So my light source is always on the upper right hand corner, and so my shadows fall on the bottom left hand corner of my objects. Although I kind of messed up with the sunglasses, but again, if I didn't mention it, would you have noticed? Maybe, but most people probably wouldn't have noticed, so it's okay if you make mistakes. Again, you're not going for absolute photorealistic drawings. These are doodles, so it's okay to make mistakes. And then just a tip on calligraphs is if you draw over it, it makes it darker. So if you want to have a gradient of your shadows, you can do one layer and then do another layer to make it a little bit darker and another layer to make it darker. I just did one layer for all of mine because it's the easiest. All right, and then so once you finish all the little details and shadows, erase your pencil marks and your drawing is ready to go. Your doodles are ready to go. I hope you guys found this short little tutorial helpful. And if you do doodles, don't forget to tag us. And let me vacuum up my little eraser bits, and there you have it. Thanks so much for watching.